You already know we right here at work decided to hop on, chop it up with individuals. See what's the talk of the town is going down. The word in the curve. You heard me. Let me just set this up real quick. Now, for those who are curious, I did drop a battle rap reaction on my other channel. If you guys want to scope that out, let me just hold this right here. We got 2 new tracks on the other channel. So for those who are into Chicano rap and are looking for new sounds, we got that going on over there. Oops. All right. Okay, we Gucci. But here in Southern California, it is a hot ass day, bro. We're still stuck in this fucking heat wave. So we still suffering right now. It's been hot as fuck, even in the shade. I mean, it's a nice day to be enjoying it, right? But shit, probably till the sun goes down. What a shadow. Have the day off today. That's right, my boy. Enjoying it. That's good. That's good. How you been overall? How's everything going on with you? Normally, how many days do you get off? You get it like 1 or 2, or shit? There's some people that get like 4 or 5. Like, damn, my boy. Are you sure that's days off, man? Huh? Like only like working 1, 2 days out of the week. That must suck. But I know some businesses are tough like that, especially when you have like part-time workers. They only end up giving them like 2 days of work or 3 days of work. Shit, some will give them like the whole week, right? But they will only give them like about 4 days. I mean, like 4 hours. And that's not bueno. Like shit, if I'm driving all the way over there, I ain't just driving over there for 4 hours. They gotta cough up a little bit more than that. Because if not, that's just a waste of time, waste of gas. But then I guess it really comes down to the worker, right? Because if you're a good worker, I'm assuming, well, they'll give you more hours to hook you up, right? But I mean, if you suck, you're gonna get the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Which is understandable. Mr. Pasas definitely up in the casa. What's good, carnal? The homie Angel. I'm in that position right now, 3 days a week, 9 hours a day. Oh, see, but you get 9 hours a day, my boy. We're talking about individuals that only get like 3 days of work and only like go for like 4 hours. So they finish for like 16 hours. Like, no. That's not good. That's not good at all. The homie Dashpool, what's good? Let's go. Yo, what's good? What's cracking like? Hello there. Have you ever touched on the first gangs to ever exist in the world? I haven't touched on that because essentially talking about the first gangs in themselves in the world, right, would be a very difficult thing to do, considering the fact of what exactly is or be considered a gang, right? Because gangs have existed for a very, very long time, right? I mean, pirates in themselves could be considered gangs. These small group of individuals, also in the Renaissance times, could also be seen as gangs, right? I mean, there's been lawless groups of individuals that have lived throughout our history, right? Who have used nicknames and who have taken over territories and marked territories with flags or colors or whatever, and who literally would do everything like how these individuals do, like home invasions and shit like that. But there's where like raid villages and fucking plunder and kill. I mean, all essentially legal activity. They didn't like whatever rules were set by the king or whatever, and they just chose to rebel, right, and live by their own terms. So I mean, that's all literally considered gangs and gang activity. But as times has gone, it's obviously mutated, right? And what they call these groups has changed as well. Gangs is not something that's new, right? It's just a modern modern day term for what they call these individuals. Gonna be going to Long Beach on the 31st of this month. Biggest life transition. I'm gonna be going through. Oh, I feel you, bro, but you got this, my boy. You got this. You know what I mean? I know that it's very difficult for anybody to change their overall how can I say, their routine, right? Because we're creatures of habit, right? You know, we normally it's normally difficult for any individual whenever there's a change, you know, to whatever they're used to. You know, a lot of individuals tend to, you know, not like it or choose to, you know, accept the new thing, right? It's a very difficult transaction. But you know, sometimes it's just getting, you know, getting over that first, you know, step, and then after that, it's smooth sailing. It's kind of like first getting jumped in. You know, people are nervous. You know, when they first gonna get jumped in, right? But then after, you know, it starts, and you know, after the beatdown, you're like, that's it. That wasn't so bad. You know what I mean? Just gotta get it out of your system. Everyone's always nervous before the first fight, but then after the fight, you're like, oh, that's it. All right, that ain't nothing. Like, ain't no wonder motherfuckers always be throwing hands all the damn time. Also, who do you think invented or founded the concept of street gang lifestyle? There's not just one single person that, you know, created the. It's always been just individuals who didn't want who wanted to live by their own terms, right? But like I said, you know, individuals, you know, choose to become parts of these types of groups for different reasons, right? Um, Overall, it's never a good reason, right? It's always some root to the pain, right? But um, you know, they're drawn to each other for the same similar situations. Because essentially these individuals just took the ideas and the blueprints from essentially what they experienced, you know, in everyday life, right? How these countries and these governments were set up and established. Because essentially that's exactly what they did as well. I got hired recently, that's why. All right, so you knew. Yeah, see, you know, you got to go through the probation process, you know, to see, you know, test the waters. Have you ever done overnight shift? Yeah, Simon. It was like whatever. Was the KKK ever a factor in SoCal streets, like beefing it with Bloods and Crips? Nah, nothing like that. At least not that I have ever seen anything like that, right? I have never seen any like type of activity by them like that, right? Like when people say all these Nazis or these white supremacists or these, you know, racist individuals, right, would be members of like regular white street gangs, right? But they weren't actual like Ku Klux Klan members, right? Because Ku Klux Klan moves different than, like, let's say a regular white gang, right? Because white gangs, even though, you know, individuals be in denial, right? White gangs gang bang, you know, they look for their ops, they fucking sell drugs, they fucking sell weapons, they do everything that a street gang does, you know, despite what individuals that are full of delusion want to think, right? Like, that's not true. Like, you're gonna tell me, bro, when we went at it with some of them fucking goofball. But like KKK was not like, you know, obviously it still exists, right? But they're more like they're more like they do more of the political moves, you know, and all that shit. They're focused on other shit. For street gang, not mafia or cartel or bikers. Yeah, I feel you. I know what you mean. LA gangs got inspirations from cowboy gangs. I felt like they just they took inspiration of their situation, right? And what they knew, because like I said, these were just kids. Remember that. People have to also keep that in mind, right? That they were just kids when these gangs were started. All these gangs were started by kids, bro. Young kids, that were coming up in a fucked up situation, and but this was all created by a child, so the reasons for why they did what they did, whatever. People always look at it from the adults' perspective, but not realizing, well, they weren't adults when they first started these groups. So that's why when people be like, man, why do they do what they're doing, or why do they, why can't they just do change, or why can't they, it's a lot easier seeing it from the perspective of you now, because you're an adult, right? But you also have to admit to yourself that you are a lot sharper now than you were when you were a teenager. When you were a teenager, you probably were, rebellious. You probably were stubborn. You probably thought you were a know-it-all. Probably people would give you advice and you probably didn't take it because you probably thought that you knew what was up. I mean, every teenager goes through that process, right? So people have to keep in mind that's the mentality that these individuals had. You can give them the advice or whatever, but were they going to listen to you? They were going to do what they were going to do, period. You know what I mean? So when they were causing all that chaos and everything like that, and why were they doing what they were doing? They didn't need a reason, bro. They just didn't give a fuck. What are your thoughts on parents being in denial when their kids all grow up and say they'll never hit a day in their life? What do you mean? Some of the gangs, especially Bloods and Crips, got inspiration from Southern culture since a lot black people from LA migrated to West Coast. Crips, Bloods still nice. I feel you, bro. Do you watch WWE or do you just play the games? I don't know. I'm a wrestling fan. Not so much of the newer stuff, right? But yeah, no, I definitely grew up on wrestling, bro. Why do some street gangs try to compare themselves to when they are nowhere? Same level. Matter of fact, I see FS street gangs. That's strange. I have never seen that myself. I have never seen myself, ever see a street gang compare themselves to like a mob or anything like that. So I don't know. I don't know nobody that thought like that, or that I experienced that myself. What would happen if the KKK tried to establish a hood and start beefing with Southern Crips? No, I don't think that they would be foolish to do that, right? Because establishing a hood is a lot difficult than people think it is, right? Especially in somebody's area, the fact of you actually being able to establish, and not only that, but the recruitment process, everyone around the areas are most likely already going to be from gangs that are already, local to that area, right? So it's going to be very difficult for individuals to find members to join them, and these people are not going to let up on you either, right? So it's very difficult to establish. Also, have you heard of Tory Lanez's music? Do you enjoy it? I think I heard maybe like one song of his. I think I'm not even too sure if it was him or not. So I guess I'm not too familiar with theirs. Also, there are some southern varieties like Vianney and Whitefields, which are more than 800 years old. Oh no, yeah. Yeah, there's neighborhoods that have been around since the 1800s. So there's neighborhoods that have been around for a long time. My love bug is definitely in the building. Love you, baby. What I mean is, grow up kids bring up the ass whoopings as their parents, their parents pretend like they never hit their kids. It's very hard. You know, that's one of the things that, you can tell when people know that they're in the wrong for this, right? Because, example, like, if their kids, misbehave or something like that, right? They'll give them an ass whooping, right? But now if they're being called, like, let's say in public, if they're being, pointed at, like if the, kid's not grown and he says, oh, remember when you used to whoop our asses? And now everybody's looking at the parent, right? The parent tends to, back the, oh, nah, I never hit you, or, it wasn't even that hard. You get what I mean? But it's like, if you're so confident in your parenting, then why are you backpedaling right now? Because you knew that you was wrong, bro. You knew that, because if it wasn't, you would stand firm in how you handle business, but you're not. Because you know now that you're older or wiser, that you probably could have handled the situation in a better way. Because it's almost like people are ashamed to speak about it now. But I know what you mean, though. I experienced that myself, right? They're in denial now. Like, nah, no, we never hit you. Okay. Hey, it's because, hey, it's just that's the facts of things, bro. You're never gonna fix a problem that way, bro. Like, you have to be. I mean, I don't understand how you can possibly think that you can fix a problem that way, though. Everybody knows why it's done. Parents are frustrated, right, and they lash out, bro, just like anybody else when they get frustrated and they're angry. But for the child, come on now, you gotta learn how to be an adult and keep your fucking emotions on check. Because even though, see, the reason why these individuals think that the whoopings work, right, is because the kid now stops acting that way. But see, it's not that it's actually working, but it's building resentment. You know what I mean? You're building a disconnection and resentment. That's all that's happening. So at what cost to get your peace are you willing to go through or to do? Uh, yesterday was Chris Benoit birthday. Was it? He was he did a despicable act, but he was a really good wrestler, though. Who's your Mount Rushmore of the WWE? My Mount Rushmore of the WWE? Undertaker for sure. Um, Stone Cold. Oh, just the WWE, huh? Because I would say, Santos, El Blue Demonio, Octagon, Máscara Sangrada. They were legit too. Nah, but just in the WWE, I like Stone Cold, Undertaker. I actually like Bam Bam Bigelow too. Bam Bam Bigelow. Um, let's see. Uh, Tito Santana. Uh, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. Probably who I would say. Did he ever used to do graffiti in your Oh yeah, no, of course. That's something all individuals in the streets have done. Now I was never a fan of it. I was never good with the writing, right? But yeah, we did that. I was shopping today. Have you heard about? It's a clothing store here. You guys have them in Cali? I never heard of that. But then again, when it comes to like the modern day, shopping shit, I know nothing. I don't even know about swap meets. Literally, that's all I know is swap meets. That's the only place that sells the shit that I like. You can't find Ben Davis or fucking Counties or the Charlie Browns. You can't find those like in fucking Nordstrom or wherever the fuck people go. Not the gang kind, just regular. Not the gang. I got Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, John Cena, and Hulk Hogan. You know what? I never liked Hulk Hogan, bro. I never liked him. I always felt like his matches were so. His and Ric Flair's matches I never liked, bro. I felt like it was the same shit over and over, and you hardly seen any wrestling moves. It was just a whole lot of punching and gimmicks. Like it was rare you seen a fucking suplex or a backplex or any kind of shit like that. you know. And he's a fucking liar. And I fucking can't stand liars. John Cena's cool. John Cena, even though I know he gets a lot of hate that people say he can't wrestle, he was cool. He had a lot of good matches. At least there was wrestling moves. At least wrestling moves were being done. Shawn Michaels was legit. Shawn Michaels is legit. That was been in a lot of good matches. That fool for sure, put himself through a lot, just to make a match good. He took a lot of spots that were like, eee. Even because people be like wrestling's fake, but even though the shit that they take in the ring though, like I like to see you fucking be thrown off of a ladder and land, and let's see if you be saying it's fake. You know what I mean? You can't fake that kind of shit, bro. Gravity's something you can't fake, my guy. You know what I mean? That putazo's gonna hurt. And it's like, bro, because if you think that ring is soft, bro, look, you have fucking wrestlers that weigh up to like fucking like 400 or something pounds. You have two of them in the ring, and the ring is able to support their weight. So do you really think that fucking ring is really fucking like a pillow? Like, nah, that shit is firm, homie. So now being fucking thrown and landing like that, my boy, that shit's gonna hurt, It's gonna hurt. Even if you know how to take a bump or land or whatever, it's still gonna hurt regardless, though, That shit's still gonna hurt. And not only that, when a wrestler climbs on the top rope and lands on you, that shit's still gonna hurt, bro. All his fucking weight just falling on you and the gravity and the force, bro, that shit's still gonna fucking hurt. No matter how well you prepare yourself, that putazo's gonna hurt. And not only that, sometimes they land on you wrong, right? So it's even more gacho. Like, you think if that shit was fake, these motherfuckers would be getting injured the way they're getting injured? You see their fucking elbows and shoulders being popped out and, during the match, and you're just like, damn. You see fucking hand hanging, or Sid Vicious when he landed and his foot broke. That shit was grave. I was like, damn. I remember I was watching that shit live and I just seen his foot. I was just like, oh damn. That was bad. Right? Or Mankind when he landed off the Hell in the Cell, like fucking A. I hope that paycheck was worth it, my guy. Cause that putazo, fuck, I'm surprised that she didn't kill that fool. I fuck with the Leafs tag teams too. Oh yeah, no. See, when we're getting to ECW, that shit was legit. My favorite was Sabu. Sabu used to put himself through all kinds of this madre. Him and RVD. Raven too, the Sandman. Tommy Dreamer. Nah, them fools had some sick ass matches, bro. Pinches putazotes, like. Like they're hitting themselves with the chairs, like, oh, those chairs are fake. Like, do you not hear the impact of that fucking putazo, my guy? Like, that shit's fake. Like, do you not hear that shit? Do you not hear that sound, bro? It's not fake. It's just that, hey, wait, well, they're getting paid the feria. I mean, if the check is nice and size enough, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would take that chair shot. I mean, it's gonna hurt, but it is what it is. Like, oh yeah, but the outcomes are determined. Like, yeah, but so are the outcomes in movies. You know what I mean? But yeah, you still enjoy those, no? Well, this is what they're putting on. It's putting on a show. They're not telling you that this shit is real. It'd be different if they're telling you that these shits are real, like these fucking, that they're actually competing like that. Like, no, they're determined, but they're still putting on a show though. Like when you're watching a movie, right? You're watching two people fight. I mean, that's scripted too, but you still enjoy it. She like, what's good, Big T? They saw the Ben Davis clothes commerce kind of by the Target. Serio? I know that there's little shops, that do, right? Like people that have their own independent clothing stores. R.I.P. Sabu. Yeah, he passed away. No, that's fucked up. But that fool put himself through a lot, though. Parents weren't backpedaling their ass whoopings in their younger years. Why now? Facts, bro. You know, it's because when you get older, you're able to control your temper better. You know, as when you're younger. You know, that's why that's you know, it's like I said, it's all part of how the brain develops, bro. You know, but there's a lot of people out there that are just not willing to admit their wrongs, right, or their mistakes. You know, when everybody makes them, right, but there's some people that swear to God it's like they never made a mistake a day in their life, or they never been wrong a day in their life about anything. They're always right about everything. You know, they never were the ones that crossed the line. You know, you have people in this world that really literally live like that, bro. That their way was always the right way, that they always had the answer, and that shit, you see some of them right here on YouTube. RVD2, bro, did some crazy shit. Fuck yeah, he did. He put himself through a lot. You know what I mean? Like, no, those tables are light. Those tables, aren't really all that heavy. Like, okay, they may not be sturdy as like some regular tables, but the fact that you're able to put a 300 and something pound man on top of that table and that table's not breaking, right? Like, as soon as you put him on there, it doesn't break, right? He's able to stay on there, right? I mean, that's still a sturdy table nonetheless, right? Because it can handle that amount of weight compared to, like, let's say other ones, the ones that are really like, let's say, like props, right? That as soon as you throw one, because I know people have seen, those kind of men where they barely put them on the table and they shatter right away. Yeah, see, like those were props, but most of these tables that these individuals were using, those motherfuckers, sometimes they don't even break. Fools are jumping from the top rope and landing on them with all their weight, and those shit still don't break. Like, fucking, you're gonna tell me that shit didn't hurt? Psst. I bet you if you asked that fool that's on that table, shit, he was probably gasping for air. You know what I mean? It's not like a bed where you can sink in, like that you're just like, you got nowhere to go, bro. That fools are gonna land on you with all their weight. Psst. That's gotta be gacho. That's gacho shit. Worse when they're on the ladder and they're doing it like Jeff Hardy, huh? Did he give a fuck? Like, fucking, hey, these vatos are crazy. Yeah, so, Mexico had a lot of talented individuals that are wrestlers. What about parents bring up their childhood stories? But see, in Mexico is different though, because in Mexico the culture is different, right? So it's almost acceptable, of that behavior is acceptable over there, right? They're a little bit more behind when it comes to like the overall psychology of things, right? Like understanding the emotional depth of things and how that impacts a person's life. A lot of countries are still in denial overall on psychology. You probably think P. Diddy is innocent. Do I think P. Diddy's innocent? Well, no, I don't think he's innocent. But at the same time, I mean, um, everyone deserves a fair trial, right? Because we weren't there. We don't know the facts. I can't say that, yeah, for sure it happened or for sure it didn't happen. I wasn't there, so I don't fucking know the facts, I'm not a detective, I wasn't, I don't know the whole scoop. You know what I mean? Overall, from what I have at least seen, if you were to ask me for my personal opinion and what I have gathered, do I think he's innocent? No, I think he's fucking guilty. I think he's 100% guilty. Now, do I think he's guilty of everything? I don't know about everything, but I'm guilty of a lot of things. You get me? Not of all the conspiracy shit that I see that people put on here, right? But I do feel that he's guilty of a lot of shit, though. As people with power, they feel like they can do whatever the fuck they want, bro. They feel like that their money and their status will forever protect them. But when you have enough people roaring, no matter how much money and status you have, it's not gonna protect you, bro. Because if there's one thing the fucking people with money fear is the people, because the people are the ones that have all the power. The government's just, think that they have power, but truly they don't have any power, bro. These old ass fools in suits that run our country don't have any power, bro. Now, if they're trying to enforce something on somebody, right? And let's say the military don't listen, because the military is still a part of, civilians. They're still civilians. They still got family out here. There's still people, right? So if they tell them no, they're not going to do what they're being told, right? And the people are saying no, they're not going to do it either. What are these old ass people in business suits going to do? What can they do? Not a goddamn thing, bro. Because what power do they truly have? Absolutely none, bro. They have enough. They have as much power as the people give them. Same way like money. It only holds as much value as people give it. Because if not, it's just a piece of paper. You get what I'm saying? So the people give the power to these individuals. And these fools are not that stupid. They're aware of that, right? So they know if the people wake up, how bad it could go. So at the same time, once everyone starts roaring, too many people are roaring, then they gotta, hey, ¿sabes qué? Hey, I know you was the homie and everything, but we gotta bring you in, because if not, these motherfuckers are gonna go crazy, and we ain't trying to have that. So this is where our business, alignment ends. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my lunch break is over. We got to get back to it. It was good talking with you guys, and we out.